Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How's everybody doing this fine day? Ryan, thanks for opening the door. Much appreciated. Zeal, I see you. Shambot, good morning. Thanks for joining. Oos, morning. Runeslinger, good to see you. Victor, morning. Mr. White, morning. Wayne, morning. Michael, Mike, Matt, Mike. Good to see ya. Jeff, morning. Tad, morning. Aragon, morning. Oh, interesting. I'll have to look into that. Just might want to. I'll look into that. Why? Huh. Interesting. Dorcas, morning. Cool. Thanks for the sound check audio. Laramie, morning. Jim, morning. Nick, morning. Man, a full house. Looking at capacity. Orthico. Wraithco. Oh, man. Curtis. Morning, buddy. Good to see you. All is well. It's always fun to see somebody I haven't seen in a while. Hope everything's all right. I think that's it. I think I'm caught up. As people walk in. Full disclosure, I have no topic of discussion today. It's open mic, open floor, if you will. I cannot complain. Life's been treating me pretty well recently. I will say that. For those of you that tune in and haven't ever done that before, I'm Sean. I used to host a gaming podcast called Gaming and BS, and now I co-host a podcast called Go Bag, and Go Bag is all about covert action, espionage, spies. With my co-host Harrigan, who's in the chat. So if you haven't checked that out and you like those types of games, check it out. GoBagPod.com. And I run BSerCon, which derives from Gaming and BS, and then the community of those individuals that I've met along that journey. And so BSerCon is in January, the third weekend in January. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, online. Registration or badge submission happens like the 8th of December, I think. It's a Saturday. Buy your badge, submit an event, and then a week or two later, then you can sign up for events. And then I donate proceeds to Blood United. They changed their name. It used to be Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, but now they are Blood United. So it's all just, and that game, BSer Con was basically, I think it was like a year after COVID or the year of COVID. And there was talks of people wanting to play games with each other within the community. They kind of know each other a little bit, but haven't, they talk about the games. And we had a gaming moot that was affectionately called. And the problem was nobody was scheduling. Like, four people all want to play this game, but they can't all play it on the same night. And so I'll just set a weekend aside in a year. So Blood United, a vampire shell charity. Indeed, it is. But don't tell anybody. So let's see. I think I skipped a few here. Gaming groups on hiatus for the holidays. Ouch. Yeah, the holidays. We could talk about that, like the holidays and how that like derails game groups. Ryan, how's the car situation? I did find a car. We are now a one-car family. We have another car, just not the best to drive. Like, it's not good. So we have one car. It's settled. It's good. It's finished. It's a investment, but it's, when you go from having a car that really the only amenities is power steering and an automatic transmission, like that's the luxury I had in my old Jeep, which I junked, by the way. Going into a more modern car is like, well, look at all of these bells and whistles. Ooh, I can't wait for them all to like screw up and have to like deal with that. So yeah, there you go. There you go. It's all done. There's a lot of stress in that. If you like love buying cars as much as I do, it just sucks all the way around. So for those of you not in the know, I had 2 cars that, my wife and I are apt to get like used cars and run them into the ground. I think I had my Jeep for 10 years. And both of them were like breaking down at the same time. So it's like, so it takes a weird like dynamic to go, okay, well, hey, I got to have the car at this time on this day. Is that all right? Yeah, no problem. Like coordinating, most people have 2 cars. Well, not most people, but some people do. William, good to see you. Morning. So it's all done, finished. Imagine Sean could rock a van like the Mystery Machine. It's funny you say that. I have an older cousin. So the dynamic is this. My dad has an older sister. So when she had her first child, there was like maybe a 10-year difference between my dad and his nephew, right? So for me, it's that much wider. But he was the older cousin. His name's Griff. And Griff had his own room, and like Griff was the oldest of like 7 kids of my cousins. And Griff, God, I think he was still in high school but I didn't know him that well because he was the older guy, right? I was really young, 6 years old or whatever, 7, 8, and he had the room with all the street signs on the walls, speed limit signs, stoplight signs, stop signs, like. He would just go out there and rip them off and then put them in his room, and they had all over. And then he had a custom van with like the no windows or the bubble window in the back corner, blue, chrome mags. Didn't have a side exhaust, but it could have. I think he had like a running board along the side. But that thing, and then of course on the inside was all like plush carpeting. Dude, when I was growing up, I'm like, I want a van like that. And even to the point, which is funny, now I'll bring it over to RPGs because it's like, God, what am I doing? Why am I listening to this guy? So during my youth, when I played Top Secret, one of the things I did as a player and as a character kind of is to create a custom like surveillance van. And it was modeled after my cousin's blue custom van. And so I'd put like a pop-up bubble in it so that it would like move and then like a machine gun would come out the top. So you could have like aerial, anti-air gun, if you will. Yeah, it was pretty obnoxious. And I think at one point, and I was born around my cousins, but we moved across the country to where I am now. And kind of communicating back then, we would write letters. And one of the things, I think my aunt sent it to me, honestly, in a letter to my dad, pictures of Griff's van. Like, here, give these to Sean because I know how much he loves Griff's van. I wish I had those. I got to imagine they're somewhere in a photo album. But anyways, there you go. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Anthony. Appreciate it. Oh, man, let's see. Need more coffee. Here's a topic that's been going around. Should larger cons provide more than just a free pass for running games? Is it a one-sided symbiotic relationship? Oof, that's an interesting one. We could talk we could talk about that and touch on it. I think there is something there to talk about. Like, we talk about conventions, and then we talk about like running con games or even being a player and maybe even going to a con. Like, well, I've never been to a convention, and why is that? Well, I don't have the opportunity. There isn't one locally, or I do online conventions, which is it's quite a bit of a different, it's quite a different experience, I'll say, than face-to-face conventions. But getting into what you're kind of touching on, Dorcas, is like, we could talk about, people at Gamehole Con, right? Gamehole Con was $65 badges or $75 badges, or they will be. I don't remember what the cost of the badges. Yes, I paid for mine. But they were charging per event. And since the beginning, I think they charged on a per event basis. And I thought it was pretty low in the beginning. Like, they're on Gamehole Con 11 or 12 now. And I remember 1 and 2 were like, to be in an event, so you'd pay for the badge, and then when you register an event, you had to pay for that. And the events were like $2 a piece, right, for a 4-hour slot or whatever. And there's a couple of reasons to it. One, you could generate revenue from doing that. You could, offset I'm just going to buy a badge and I'm going to play all off book. All right. You could. It makes it also where if somebody signs up for an event, they're more serious about it. They're more apt to show up for it. Some of us don't subscribe to that belief, mainly because you don't lose your money. But if you were, that might be a factor. But I digress. This year was kind of interesting, and they have guests of honor that come, and part of them paying for them to come is that you're going to be accessible and you're going to run games. Like, even I think the authors have to run something, whether it's a checkers game or anything. You got to be out and accessible, because a lot of these cons will be like, yeah, we're going to fly you in. And then they don't do anything, right? They just kind of hole themselves up in a hotel, or they schmooze with their fellow colleagues in the industry and don't really, you put the guest of honor page on a website to appeal to us, the con goer, to go, oh, cool. Ken Height's going to be at Gamehole Con. It would be cool to like see him and talk to him, or, have him sign your book or whatever. And if they're just going to schmooze with their colleagues, which they can do, but it's also nice that, hey, they're around regular schmoes like myself, right? Or they do a seminar or something like that. But so when that happens, they usually charge a premium to play in those games, right? Harrigan and I played with, oh my God, what is his name, Harrigan? From Free League, Simbaroom, right? The creator is Simbaroom. We want to get it right from the horse's mouth. And so we played in a charity game with him, and it was interesting and an experience, right? We could talk about, but those things cost money. Like, they could cost anywhere $20 to a few $100, depending on what the arrangement is. And then regular people games, like me, I call myself regular people. I'm regular people, would be like, to play in a game I would run. I think it was like, was it $6, $8 this year? And so people would say, so let me get this straight. And they'd complain about buying the badge and then spending so much on a per event basis. And I don't want to take that away from them, because everybody's got, different money, financial constraints. And, that does become a bit of a hurdle to deal with. But there's that component. And then what Orcus is kind of touching on, which is like, if you like Gamehole Con, I can't remember if it's like 4 slots. They are one of the cons where you can run the least amount of slots and get a free badge. And then we could get into, well, what about volunteers? Like, how do volunteers work? Because I think there was also a con or talks of conventions using volunteers as free labor. And like, where is the line drawn when you're like, well, I'm going to volunteer my time. I'm not going to get paid for it. I know that. Versus you're going to do that and somebody's going to take complete advantage of that. And so I know that a while ago there was something, I don't think it was Gen Con, but it was a conversation topic that had come up. So there's like running the convention and some of the choices that they make. And then there's also the nuances of the con itself, like the pay per event, the what is the cost on a per event cost basis, if you will, the volunteer part. And then of course going to the free, I'm going to run 6 games and I get a free badge. Woo! And then if I run 8 games, I get like a free hotel room, but I have to shack up with somebody like some rando. What does that mean? And what does that look like? And, is that, can they just pay people outright? Which some people would say there's no way. But anyways, it's a good topic. I don't know how much wheels, but it is something to talk about for sure. Thanks, Orcus Dorcas. Let's see. Laramie says, Dorcas, I don't think so. If people didn't want to run games, they don't. As far as I know, Gamehold doesn't have a shortage of games. It's true. RPG Gen Exile, good to see you. Morning. The GM Lounge at GHC did look pretty weak this year. Yeah, I don't know what that is. A part of me, like we're going to have a booth next year. Go Bag is. And I've always wanted to, I don't know if I brought this up before. There's a place, it used to be a client of ours. I don't know the owner that well at all. He wouldn't know who I was. But we used to do their website. It's called the Century House. If you want to Google it, go check it out. But they offer Scandinavian furniture, which means that a couch is going to cost like $4,000. It's like this. And it's going to look like something from mid-century or something in Scandinavia, whatever. Yeah, and it's not IKEA, okay? And I was always like, God, I wonder if I could just talk to those guys and get like, 2-3 chairs, put in a swanky lamp and a rug or a carpet or a rug to throw down and put that in the booth. And people could just come there and literally just kick it, make it comfortable and whatever. I still want to do that, but I could maybe bring it all together myself personally, because I've got this thing behind me I'm not using in my basement. I could throw that, but then it becomes like I got to throw it in a van, and then I got to unload the van, and then what's the cons? Then I got to throw it in a storage shed. But I was thinking to myself, like, I could put together a better GM lounge than some of these cons could, for sure. Of course, then they have to deal with that, and I'm sure they don't want to either. So, dude, I love Gamehole. Second favorite con every year, but the GM Lounge is not really worth a lot. No, it's not. Just had Gamehole 12. Okay, so we just had 12. Next year's 13. Ryan says, I just checked my Gamehole account. I have a $36 credit because all my events got canceled, which is good or bad, because the problem with refunding that is because when they charge the person, they got hit with fees. And if they have to refund your $36, they'll probably get hit with more fees, which just hits their bottom line. So it's like a net negative. So they just use it as a credit. I can empathize. That's a tabletop events kind of thing. And refunding those fees pieces can be a pain in the ass. I think what could happen, Ryan, if you want to recoup that, is you talk to somebody like me or somebody in the chat that's going to Gamehole Con if you're not going, and then you register. I think, I may be wrong, but I think you can register for events without a badge. I may be wrong. But if you could, I have you register for events that I want or 5 people want, and then I pay you for that. And then you could recoup that. Just a thought. GHC is amazing that it holds that money over. Some cons do not. Yeah, agreed. Matthias, yes, Johnson at the Gamehole. Yes, that's right, Matthias. 4 slots is a lot. I don't know if it's 4 for Gamehole Con. I think it might be more than like Gen Con. To get a Gen Con badge, I challenge anybody in the chat to find out what it is to get a free badge at Gen Con. Well, that is subject to who you're running the events for. Like, I'm sure I don't know if Gen Con has a policy or if it's based on the publisher, right? Like if you go to Monty Cook Games and they want you at Gen Con, they'll comp you a badge based on how much help you provide them. Some other issues mentioned: the time requirement for some can seem a bit excessive and really doesn't allow you adequate time to play other games or attend other events. Yeah. Yeah, right. So what Orcus is saying is, in order to get a free badge, I got to run 4 slots. If I run 4 slots, I can't do anything else, and that limits my flexibility. Nick says, I assume higher than norm tickets price at GHC profit goes to the game master. No, they do not. The game masters see nothing. I will say though, if you game master, you're on a list, and they do random drawings throughout the con. And I don't know if it's on a per slot basis, but it happens throughout the whole weekend. That's what they have this big whiteboard for, with all these GM names on it. And then you could pick from a big table of swag, something off of that. I actually won one year and I got a Cthulhu book out of it. Can't remember which Cthulhu book, but some want 6, some 10 to 12, some want 20. GMs are not paid at GHC, I don't think, no. But some cons fly people in, so the special guest rates go towards that, yes. There's a lot of moving parts within a convention. Laramie, yes, the more money just goes to con costs. The GMs don't get that. Don't forget the venue is not cheap, right? And whatever overhead banners, they got to change those, not maybe every year, because as long as they have the same room numbers and all that stuff, you can recoup that cost of getting everything printed. But your first few years, if you're like, hey man, we're going to move to a larger venue, got to get more stuff printed. They get those things in the doors. Even Gamehole Con Gamehole guys have their own organized play. And like if you went out to get food at the food trucks, the doors that were vinyled over, that was all Gamehole stuff. And their organized play. They had the ability to sell those to companies. One year, Monty Cook, I think, bought a lot of those slots. So there's sponsorship components to it as well, and one way to raise money. Like just the financial dealings of a convention could be a whole topic that I'm completely ignorant to. Will a Go Bag booth be next to Hobbs? I could see pros and cons either way. Who points up? I don't know. Maybe it's just going to be left to randomness. Does a booth go for a Gamehole Con? It depends who you know. Podcasters can get in there at a reasonable... I won't speak on Gamehole Cons, because the minute I say, well, it's this, and then you go to check it out and they charge you or whatever, it could be something completely different. So the podcast booths are different than the exhibit booths. And I'm a little conscious of the podcast booths because... let's face it, I think they want those podcast booths to be media. Like they want them to promote the con and talk about it. And if you're not doing that, it's not probably a good ROI for the con. So what would be their incentive to give you one? There is also the component of, oh, I see Sean and Go Bag, a podcast, get a free booth, say for example, and I'm in the convention hall and I have to pay $500, $1,000 for the weekend. And so but Sean gets to sell things at his booth. Like he gets to sell his own t-shirts and all that stuff, or even his own games. Like how is that different? Right. So I think Gamehole Con has not come down that I know of on that piece. Like, hey, you can have this booth, but you can't sell anything at it. Right. Like, because then we're going to have exhibitors that are going to get bent out of shape. Brett and I at Gaming and BS have had a booth at the con in the past when we were doing a podcast, and we would have Alex on to talk about the con probably once a year when it was happening. So it was a direct, like, we're going to have Alex come on. We're going to talk about maybe Gamehole Con briefly, and then we're going to talk about what he's doing in the industry or his collection or whatever. I happen to know those guys personally, so they kind of understand. I'm not just some stranger to them that they're gonna know. And frankly, if I was to cross a line, they'd put me in check. I'm sure, right? Just have the GM lounge in the Spark. Better furniture, a bar nearby, and it could be a semi-private room. Yeah, that's an idea. It's kind of maybe a way. No, Spark. Is that the new? Is that the old Clarion? I'm getting all the hotels mixed up now that they renamed them all. Totally good with it just for the next year. Good. I'm glad it's going to bring you back. Gen Con is like 14 hours of games. Well, that's not too bad. 2.5 slots, maybe. Also, rumor has it that they're dropping the free badge requirements from 14 hours to 12. I mean, 12 hours for a free badge? I mean, you run a game at 9 o'clock every day, and then you're done. You get a free badge out of it. That's not too bad, right? I don't know. How is pricing determined? I paid higher per normal for several events. Those extra fees just go to GHC, as far as I know. Cover all the costs and everything. Like, these guys are, like many things in the hobby, people aren't doing it to get rich. I can assure you that Mr. Kammer has plenty. I think he's okay financially. I could be wrong, but, I think it's to basically cover the cost. And, they do, they give everybody a die every year. They get decent badges, right? The badges are all printed. Plastic. I don't know what kind of color print they would be considered, but it's not "Hi, my name is Sean" picked up at Office Depot and written on with a black marker. I will say that. Lanyards, there's a sponsor behind that, but I'm sure the sponsor's not probably picking up the total cost of that. I don't know. I mean, 6,500 lanyards. To me, if I'm bored, like, I don't know if that would be, I mean, it's good for them to advertise, but let's face it, there's a lot of people that come from out of town. And, if I'm a game store called I'm Bored and I have a lanyard, what's the chances of that person being in town going to my game store? Now they'll have a booth a booth in the exhibit hall as well. But, I think that's more of a relationship piece. Chris, good to see you, man. With the advent of paid GM faces like Start Playing and that marketplace becoming somewhat competitive, we might see some of this popping up at cons with more production and higher costs for some events. Well, there was what are they called? Who are they called? They all, WOD, right? World of Games. Something. I'd featured them on a stream because they got into hot water. They were a company I'd never heard of, and you went to their website. And I think they may or may not be around. The CEO got into some hot water, but it was a place, a company, organization that you can engage with, and they would do, game design for you. They would publish yours. Could edit it. They also had a thing about attending the con, setting up the booth, manning the booth for you if you were a company. So I'm done, I'm Joseph Goodman Games. We got like 3 cons at the same time. I'm going to send half my staff to this one, half my staff to the other, but we still want to have a presence in the other 2. So I'll hire this company to do that. And then they would go in, set it all up, and then represent the company, and I would pay them. They would also run games on behalf of those orgs. So like when you go to some of these grids and you register for the game and it's got Sean Kelly listed 20 times, it could be where the company I'm representing is going to run those slots. We just haven't put the GMs, and then it's my responsibility as that game company to run those games on behalf of Goodman Games, right? Like, come play DCC, blah. And, that's part of a thing too. So to Nick's piece, and then Chris and what he mentioned, that's a service. That's the thing, right? Like, do you want your games run at a convention? Yes or no? Yes. do you have enough people that are going to do that? No, we can provide that for you. What's the cost? We charge whatever. The rub also would be is if I, as that company, then want to go and garner volunteers, that would be weird. And I think that, I don't know if that specific dynamic was the issue. I think there was a few things going on, but my buddy Doc, I don't think I'm going to out him or say anything that he wouldn't say in public, was, he would go to Gen Con, he would play in events, and Doc he knows the rules to the games he runs. There's no question. Like, he knows the 5e rules, he knows the Pathfinder rules, and they would go to Gen Con as a group and play in a Pathfinder game and have a really terrible game master for whatever reason. And he thinks that some game masters that run at conventions because nobody else will let them run anywhere else. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I have no basis on that, but it was his experience that, like, he would just have bad experiences with bad game masters. But it does go to, like, there's no certification to be a game master. GameholeCon is now sending out surveys on, like, hey, you played in this game, can you provide feedback? Chaosium did their own. Like, when I played in the Pendragon game, the GM's like, we're going to send you a form. If you could provide feedback, that would be great. And Andy, the guy who ran my game, we had a conversation at a break where he was like talking about how game masters can really make your game and propel sales. But they have to be decent and they have to be good. So I think it would be surprising to me to hear that people had played in a Chaosium game at GameholeCon. And I mean a Chaosium game like run by Chaosium, not, oh, it's called Cthulhu run by Sean. Like, no. It could be Sean, but I'm working through Chaosium. That would have had a bad experience. I could be wrong, but he purposely worked. He kind of volunteers his time to contribute to Chaosium. And he's like, he was even going into, well, how much does your booth sales come in at when you do a convention? Like, are you making money at your booth? He goes, because he would argue that, I think his angle is kind of like, you have a modest booth presence to sell the product, but you have game masters that play the game, buy the game, convince their home groups to run, to play in the game. And then those home groups players buy the product because the game master's like, I did it with Delta Green. We do it all the time as game masters. That should not be a secret. That's not some epiphany that any of us should be like, whoa, that's revolutionary, man. But it's a thing, right? Gen Con has an event staff listing. Level 1 appears to be 16 to 20 hours of time to get a 4-day badge refunded. Oof. Well, that's 2 full work days. 2.5. Gen Con requires 70 player hours. That's 3 or 4 standard game slots, depending on how many players you have. Okay, good to know. Thanks for doing the research, folks. Chris says these kinds of events need to be vetted by the convention organizers to make sure they're worth it to stake their reputation on. I can also see a lot of pushback from attendees since that's not what's been often in the past, and people don't like change. One of the things I had done and thought of like years and years ago, and I still don't think there's anything out there, Start Playing kind of has it, but there isn't a open directory of good game masters. And I think that is worth something. And I'm surprised nobody's taken it to a level where it's like, register with our website. Here's your little personal code, like Venmo, right? Your own little personal barcode. When you go to a convention, you provide that to people. Either they just scan it right off your phone or a card that you print. And then they go there and they submit feedback based on your game mastering. right? But they're very calculated questions, because you don't want somebody just to go in there and just slam them because, oh, I hate the guy, I'm just going to go on there and ruin his or her reputation, right? They got to be constructive. Like, what are the 5 things you value in a game, right? Well, rules, number 1. And then you prioritize that. And then when you review and you say, well, the game master didn't go over the rules really well, it's weighted less because you put such an emphasis on it. So it kind of balances it all out, which kind of better, and then it paints a profile of that game master that can be used. And then conventions can use that list to solicit good game masters. You could do it by location, right? You could pay them. You could offer them a better incentive. You could say, hey, most of our people, you run 3 games, we give you a free badge. For you, you can run 1 game, we'll give you a free badge. What do you say? Or 2 games, right? It's not as much. And then, or they can charge more because you're a certified game master through this site. And that site has certain criteria that establishes it at a certain credibility level. I have obviously not put this together yet. It's on my to-do list. Hi, Eileen, good to see you. That's just what I'm seeing and hearing on the internet and from folks I've talked to, says Chris. Okay. I'd pay more to play with those toys for a few hours. Oh, I'm picking it in a conversation here. Arrogant, Carl Kiesler, boom, bang, boom. And the thing is like, why do people like Carl stand out? Obviously, huge amounts of effort and passion goes into his games. Michael Brown, I've mentioned before, he's run Murder on the Love Boat, Catastrophe, Nightmare on Sesame Street, right? Production. Like, you walk by the table and go, dude, I'm signing up for that guy's game. I want to be a part of that. That looks cool. It's a thing, right? Say you're going to go to a thing for 4 hours, whether that's a concert or, a play or, an art show or something entertaining. Now, the badge cost is one thing, and then you're having to pay for the event. But if you look at it like, well, I'm going to pay for I'm going to go to a movie. Now, somebody will be like, Sean, I'll pay $10 to go see a movie in a theater because I know it's like, it's got a $100 million budget. It's got a $10 million budget. It's got a good IP. I have certain expectations. I think sometimes when I hear people complain about paying for a game at a convention, it's like, really? I mean, some of them can be exorbitant for sure. But imagine every game that you're playing in a typical slot for 4 hours. Is that worth anything? If it's a good experience. Well, yeah, Sean, but they're bad experiences. Well, sure, but not every movie you go to in a theater is awesome either. Like, people have paid to see some bombs. And to be said, many of us will play in a game with a game master and we will have a bad experience and we'll say, you know what? I'm just not going to play in that guy's game anymore, like ever again. The problem is that it's only once a year, maybe twice a year. So that doesn't make it to the market very quick. Like, the bads don't get weeded out as quickly as the goods get bubbled up. Carl Kiesler, man, people talk about that guy. Half the chat may not even know who the guy is, but if they see him at a con, they're like, what? I heard about this guy. I'm going to sign up for him because these guys rave about him. No brainer. Orca says, yeah, there are groups like Lurking Fears who have a nice gig going running games for other publishers at conventions. Did Harrigan say something constructive that I should have mentioned? Sorry, buddy. I must have glossed over it. Oh, yeah, that's right. He mentioned Carl. Okay, got it. Carl doesn't charge extra, but some cons fly him and others in so the extra fees cover airfare, hotel, etc. Right. And Laramie says, I'd pay for that. Right. Laramie, Doc's story, I've had some of those GMs. Yeah. Chris says, but stuff like that could be charged more for in the future and would be worth it. But that's about vetting and essentially hiring contractors. Well, and it's it's not, I don't think it's a secret that Alex is an attorney, professionally. I'm sure he realizes what is probably okay and what probably isn't okay. Some congoers just don't have that knowledge. They're just like, well, we'll just have these guys do it, and it's not that big a deal. But what does that look contractually like? What kind, it could be a whole can of worms that we're not aware of. Sounds like a market, GM certifications. Well, you also got to look at, I come from like the tech certification world. And, there's one, they're paper lions is what they're called. And there are good certifications in the industry and there are bad certifications. And the good is, when you say good, it's a good certification. It means it's reputable. It has integrity. It holds water. It's very hard to game it, right? Like if you have the certification, it proves that you actually know your stuff. And then there are certifications that don't necessarily do that, right? And they don't hold up as well. So, game master type certification would be something along those lines. Dweefer, good to see you, man. What would a GM certification even look like as far as the requirements to earn it? A certain amount, I would say you could put all kinds of requirements around it. You could put on amount of games run. And then you're like, well, how do you do that, Sean? And you say, well, you got to have so many people sign off on it, right? Maybe a con, maybe you get somebody from a convention that has to do it and certify it all. Like it's an ecosystem. It's a whole thing. It could start out very small and elementary, but in order for it to lend a huge amount of credibility, it has to have a lot of standards, a lot of checks, a lot of balances. Otherwise, it's not going to hold up water. People are going to game it and screw it over. I'm not sure it would work. I'm actually sure it wouldn't right away. I'm not sure there's a culture in place that would support it. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Absolutely. But Gamehole Con, with their special guest upcharges, could be a place I could see it happening because of the reputation and a potential to vet people. The one thing that they will have that many of us won't is a waiting list. If they ran metrics across that waiting list and Carl Kiesler's games are always 20 deep, dude, there is a demand there. Based on that demand, they can set the price differently. If Sean is running Shadowdark and he has one person on his waiting list, could be a multiple things. Could be the game Sean's running. Could be the type of game master he's running. Could be the slot time he's running. Could be a lot of factors, but it doesn't matter. Some of those factors won't matter because if Carl Kiesler runs if he runs at 7 a.m, he's still got a freaking 20 deep waiting list. It's not the time of the day, right? Tim says the closest thing we have to legitimate certification is social media presence like YouTube actual plays. Maybe. I only say that because YouTube can be edited. Not a bad start. Most of the times it's word of mouth, man. Carl Kiesler, like I played in his game. He puts on here's the thing with Carl. He's got a lot of pictures. He puts them out on Instagram and social media, maybe Instagram more often. I think is like his primary place. He's done layout for Savage Worlds. He's a big Savage Worlds guy. He actually has his own publishing company that produces work for Savage Worlds. He has his name and lots of credits. He's a graphic artist, day in, day out. And he takes that, obviously, and puts it into the games that he runs and the props that he uses. But I'll tell you what, he could do all that and be a shitty game master and not be as popular. I think Carl's a good game master. I don't know if he's a great one, but with good and the set pieces that he does, it makes the demand there, creates the demand. Dorcas, it would be a certificate with online ministry crossed out in red pen and my signature in green crayon. Only $15.99 plus fees. 10% off first 500 sign up. Yeah, see, Orcus Dorcas, he knows the deal. Oof, do we need to regulate everything? I don't know. Is there a demand to do it? Someone would say, I don't think so. I don't think so. But I thought the same for years and have mocked up an app to do just that. Yeah, see? Nick, I've had too many bad GM experiences at cons. Which is funny because Harrigan has too. That's why I'm surprised. Like, you don't have to regulate it. It's just a perk, right? You could put a star or an asterisk under a GM that has proven their ability. Some of us do it like, you know, if I were to go back to the days where I was playing tons of games with patrons and stuff, the amount of people I've played with from BS Landy could all just lend to my credibility. I'm not saying I'm good, but I could say, like, I'm doing it anyways. I'm just running all these games anyways for different groups. Could I get them to just provide feedback so that there is a potential for me to get a check mark? You know, it could be the amount of people, the amount of games, amount of different people, not even the same people. Could be on specific games. There are going to be niches that some people do extremely well in too, right? Like, I may run a Deathmatch Island game, got off to a rough start. I wouldn't consider myself an expert in Deathmatch Island. Frankly, I wouldn't consider myself an expert in any game because Sean would have had to bone up on some of the rules to kind of make it system mastery. But some of us are. Like, yeah, we run many different games, but this is my jam, you know? This is my Black Hack all day, right? I was just wondering if such a thing existed for a con that would be involved. No, I'm thinking about cheap con certified GM certificates. I mean, you could even do it on a con basis, right? Like, to Laramie's point, like, I just want to get feedback at some of the GMs we have representing the con and putting things out there, because there's also a risk to having shitty GMs at a con. It could be like, don't go to cheap con, don't go to X con or whatever. I won't say cheap con, but don't go to this con because other GMs suck. There is an inherent want to have really good GMs at certain conventions, right? I would expect, or at least highlight those so that, you know, people could come in. Here's, and I'll even throw this in there. GameholeCon has a list of pretty good industry people that come. Like, it's like a guest list of 25 people. And they run games. I wouldn't call all of those great game masters. They're just not. And that's okay. I would much rather play in a Carl Kiesler game than I would a Frank Metzner game. Strong words, but it's true. Now, it's a novel idea. Like, I played with the guy who did Redbox. Check, right? But man, you know, people want to play with that person, but it's only because they created the game. Monty Cook is running Cypher System. I want it firsthand from that guy. That doesn't make Monty a great game master. It makes him, you know, he's known to be the publisher. He's the guy that's come up with the world and the designer and da-da-da-da. Now, on the other hand, he's also on the cover of is he on the Dungeon Master's Guide for 3.0, right? He's that guy. Now, but I'm saying he could be a double threat, right? He could be a great game master and a designer and publisher. But that's not all the people in the industry. And I would also say that if somebody's got a good reputation for a con game for 4 hours to be kind of a production, they may demand, I mean, Carl Kiesler could demand a higher per event thing than somebody like Monty Cook, because they're two different things. We're talking about the game and the event and the experience that you have playing in that person's game. The experience that people are paying for when they play with a publisher is to hope that that publisher knows it just as well as any big fan out there. And I would argue that there are probably better game masters than the people that are publishing the game. Crazy, but it could be, because there's no restrictions on that. There are even some game publishers that don't even adhere to their own rules. And you know why? Because when they publish it, they get feedback and they say, well, I don't want to put, they do it by design team. So they might have three or four people on the design team or the company that are weighing in on what's going to be put out. And so if I keep picking on Monty, but if I was Monty and, I got Sean Reynolds, right? I got Bruce Cordell, Shauna Germain, and amongst others, say Eileen, right? That's worked there. And Monty's like, gonna run a game. And he says, I don't do GM'd intrusions because I never liked that rule. So I don't run my game with that rule in it. Well, if I'm a Cypher person and I'm like, well, that's part of the game, right? Like I thought I would sign up for this and this is Monty running it. He doesn't even use GM intrusions. What? Different experience. Keep my own list of both good and terrible game masters for cons. Sounds like a professor rating system. Yeah, interesting, right? Harrigan says, I've had tons of bad GMs at cons. Just read his blog. I'm still learning from the experience. And in many cases, I can say that I could see they'd be good GMs for other games. For sure. And that could be very stipulated in feedback system. Like, not for Call of Cthulhu, but for, Delta Green, or, not for this game, it's for something Savage Worlds. Yeah, aces, right? I can think of a couple ways to game the system to inflate your GM score. Well, of course. Of course you can. I would hope so. It's not that hard to figure it out. Sneeze says, we would regulate it by reputation regardless. I'm also pretty neutral on this one way or the other. Yeah. I don't mind ratings of GMs by the stakeholders in the company, but public feedback proves to be unreliable in both directions, good and bad. That's a tough one. It's so subjective. It's got to be weighted. It's not going to be perfect. It's like anything. It's like reviews of anything. It could be gamed. It's not going to be perfect. It depends on who you ask, who's weighing in, what was the situation. And that's why I like what are the key things that when a person says, I like this game master, that's not it. That's not it. You got to get in there and peel it back. What did they do really well? What game were they running? How many times have they run that game? How many different players have experienced this? Do they tout themselves as a heavy rules? It's like Survey 360, man. How do I rate myself as a rules person? Well, I'm not really good at rules. This person sucked at rules. Well, no shit, because Sean already admitted that. That's a data point. So you can kind of correlate all this and determine if they are in the ballpark. All right? If it were easy, it'd be out there already. Sneeze, I'm pretty sure regular escape from room attendee. I hate some and love others. I've left pretty rough reviews on the ones I dislike and glowing on the ones I think are good. Here's my personal opinion. Reviews, feedback, it's all good if you stick to what actually is the thing. Here, case in point, I bought a car, right? Was not the greatest buying experience, but I will say this, right? I won't name the dealership. If you happen to see the back of my car, you'll know who it is. It wasn't the greatest experience, but I will say this. I went down there. He didn't mess around. I didn't talk to a finance person that was going to sell me all kinds of different add-ons so they could make a buck. That never happened. I got to test drive the vehicle. They gave me a car without a full tank. I asked for it, but they didn't. They're like, well, it is what it is. It's got a half a tank. Like, check, right? The tires are original tires. They've never replaced the tires since the car was manufactured. The tires aren't bad, but I mean, 30,000 miles on the tires, it might be time to change them. Dealer says that if the person came in with tires like that, I would not recommend them to get new ones. So he just said, tough, right? I could write up those statements of fact and let the reviewer consume those and determine if that is like a reasonable thing or not. Is Sean being unreasonable? I don't know. That's what happened. Dude didn't even get a freaking car. He got a car without a full tank of gas? That's bullshit. No emotion. Remove the emotion. Just like put it out there and say, hey, here's my experience. They gave me a little toolkit. Here's a complimentary little toolkit. It's got different tools in it, blah, 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 right? He was friendly, wasn't rude. But it was literally just like, kind of like, you want it? Here it is. One thing I hate about some cons is when they allow bulk scheduling events. Those events never list the actual GMs running them. Flying blind when booking one of their games. I hate it. Yeah, I would say that is not an uncommon opinion. I'll pay $25 to $30 for that hour experience. Harrigan will work to subvert the system. Harrigan, on the other hand, is a person who would not mind playing at a table with a shitty GM. Why? Because he could learn from them. He could blog about them. It's blog fodder. Where would we be without shitty GMs? Yeah, people still pay money to see new Star Wars movies when they come out. Oh, shots fired. Con GM rating, skill, fun, attentiveness, time management, smell. Yeah, it could be as simple as, did they show up on time? Did they tell you what game you were there to play? Did they have an introduction or not? Like, some of those things you can rate them. It may not even be a rating. It just may be like things that happen. They were there on time. Well, no, they weren't. Like, if the event was there, starting at 8, was the game master there at 8? Well, they were there at 8, but they didn't start the game till 10. Okay. Point noted. But if GameholeCon tells me this is a game that we think is worth a little more money, I'd be more interested in at least looking at that. I'm telling you, I had a Pendragon game. It was run by Andy, I think Cowan, Cowan, I think was his last name. Weird. How many game masters do I remember first and last name? Running Pendragon. If I say this like to you guys and you go to a convention and he's on the grid and you remember, like, even if right now you're like, I'm not going to a convention for another 6 months, and you go on that grid and you're like, I don't know. Pendragon I haven't played before. Maybe I should look at, I've played it tons, but maybe I'll go in the con. And then you look at it and it's like, Andy Cowan. How do I know that guy's name? That sounds like a familiar name. Why would that stick out? I don't know. I don't understand. And it's maybe a premium game. Maybe it's not, but it's sponsored by Chaosium. I'm going to sign up for that. And then after the fact, when you play it, you'll be like, wait a minute. Now I know where I found this guy's name. Same with Carl, right? But he's, maybe somebody saw him on Instagram. Some of you don't know Carl Kiesler from a freaking hole in the ground at this point. But I'll tell you what, the next time you're at a con, you're like, I saw the guy's name. It's the first time he was ever there. I can't believe I got into it. You know why? Because nobody there knows who he is. That's how it started at GameholeCon. In Colorado, I think, right, where he makes a pretty big presence because they got a big Savage Worlds movement out there. You're never getting in a Carl Kiesler game. Uh-oh, now our player's getting rated as well. Here's my player cert. Some shitty players out there too. I had a $16 game at GHC where the GM was unnamed, then named. Then they didn't come, so I got a fill-in who ran for 1 hour and 15 minutes. That I didn't know it was a $16 game. That's bunk, man. Tim says, I rarely sign up for scheduled con games anymore. Too many bad no-show GMs and players, which is why I like the games on demand format. Also, playing off-book games with friends is always fun. It wasn't bad, that 1 hour and 15 minutes, but I wouldn't have minded a refund. would have demanded a refund. Can't eat the steak. You ate the steak. That would be the argument. You ate the steak. Jeff, I'm part of a GM group that runs games at local cons. We vet our GMs for the con. I mean, there are groups like that. BS Landia, right? When we say, hey, this is a BS Landia game, or when I tell people, yeah, if you register a game at GameholeCon and you want to represent the community as a whole and, BS Landia, and you put that on there, it doesn't hold any water right now. It just helps probably other people that are part of the community know that, oh, it's Harrigan from BS Landia. Oh, I didn't recognize his name because it didn't have his Discord handle, but now I know who it is. I've always wanted to play with that guy. So it doesn't hold any credibility, but we as a community on BS Landia, the Discord, could come together and say, at cons, we want to be good GMs. Like if we put down BS Landia, the players that play in that game are going to expect a certain level of professionalism. And I think we as a contingent, like going to Jeff's comment, you could establish your own standards. Spark is kind of one of those, even though I don't know if that's the goal of them because they do more organized play. I think organized play should have a component of that, but they probably don't, right? You could play an organized play and their GMs could be all over the place, but they're running the same adventures. And the players partaking in that world because it's always being run and it might have some commonalities across the huge player base. But if BS Landia sat down and said, hey, you guys want to join? If I put it out there on BS Landia Discord and said, hey, I want to do this thing, if anybody were interested, and you know what, you could be provided feedback by your own peer group. So if say Harrigan's like, I'm interested in doing this, or Sean's interested in doing this, and Laramie's interested in doing this, and Chris is interested in doing this, and we got together and we said, okay, in order to kind of be part of this thing, you got to run games for us so that we can determine and provide you feedback. And we provide you feedback and you take it and you go, okay. And you literally just take it in. Like it's not an argument. We're going to provide you constructive feedback in an effort to make you a better game master. So there's also this other twist where it's like, I don't know. Jeff tells me I'm a great game master. Jeff might be like my dad and say like, yeah, my son's a good game master. Like, but how? Why? But with you, if I had a group of my peers that were to say, hey, Sean, here's one thing you may want to consider when you're doing this. You could also have a format. Like if we're going to run a game, this is the format. In introduction, always introduce yourself. You let everybody know what game you're about to run. You have freaking table tents at the game. Like it could be just check boxes. Like it's a process or procedure. Like, well, do we have to procedure everything? It's an experience because we all know when we sit down at a table, Harrigan is complaining like, no table tents. What? That's table stakes, right? No brainer. BS Landia, it's a tighter group. Like there's the Call of Cthulhu group that always runs at GameholeCon, and I'm sure they do tons of other conventions. They have a reputation of like, oh, it's that kind of event, or they're putting it on. I know they're pretty tight. I'm going to show up for it. I don't know who the game master is, but because I know they're part of that group, they don't let schmoes be part of that. Where am I? It's currently reputation. I didn't make a fuss because I quite liked the woman who filled in at the last second. She did a good job with what she had. I didn't want her thinking I was being critical of her work. Well, that's something to be said too. Woman, no notice, filled in, GM, last minute, had mentioned she didn't prepare for the event, came out considering all things considered like a champ. Good versus great GM, there's a topic. Is Carl great? I don't know either, but he's probably better than me. Yeah, I don't know. I think the company's groups shouldn't be allowed to sign up those blocks of GM-less games. Yeah. For Chaosium, they are doing it, and those are premium games. Okay. Sneeze, but I get the human element of being decent. That's worth more than $16. We will pay. We will pay. I think a lot of gamers in the hobby, we look at it like, oh, the game book's like $50. Screw that, dude. It's too expensive. We spend so much damn money, some of us with disposable income, right? It's a certain level in life where we have that disposable income. I don't imagine a college kid to be throwing money out the door. But once we get into jobs and careers and all this other stuff, we spend money on the dumbest shit at times. And at other times, we value worth with those things. And it would be, we pay for a badge at GameholeCon. I'll pay $75 a weekend, no problem. $20 a game? Sure, if it's good. And I'm going to sign up for 5. I'll spend $100 on games because I know it's going to be a great experience. That is worth something. It's just me, but I would be very worried about how the game I just ran at a con went over with the players and want to try and correct it as quickly as possible. It's an opt-in. You know, if it's something that you don't want, there is a level of anxiety that can come from it. You don't have to do it. Even GM-less games need a facilitator or at least someone to bring the game. I wouldn't worry about it, Harrigan. I've never witnessed you giving it off an air of criticism. You haven't listened to Go Bag yet. Hey-oh, shots fired. Sneeze. I agree with that first point, Harrigan. I've worked with some of those companies, Baldman Games, and I'm not a huge fan of not having the people to run when you create events. Yeah. Valuable critiques are rare and wonderful. Just use a star rating system per con. I mean, it could be just that too. You could just be like, hey, Gamehole Con just has like, go on the app, 4 stars, 5 stars. If you run enough, it'll all bubble up in the end. The only problem is gaming it. Like, hey, can you guys all, like, don't allow anybody else to rate it. If you're in the player in the game, you get access to the rating, 4 or 5 stars, and 1 open text box. That's it. I don't hate CheapCon. I just don't want to use you guys as an example. Oh, God. Sneeze says, so a little inside Baldwin Games. They have players rate their GMs and turn them in at the desk without the GM seeing it. Then the GMs get rating. Yeah, there's a way to facilitate that feedback too, to Shambot, like his nervousness. I've seen GMs get blacklisted from Baldwin because their rating was consistently below 6. I'm not picking on Monty. I'm using him as an example. I know Monty's a good dude. Monty is probably a great game. He's kind of probably the double threat, right? He can design a game and can run it and be great. But I only pick out Monty because he's known. Like most of the people know who he is. Love you, Cookie Monster. To me, when a company does that, they're staking their reputation on a volunteer, which they're responsible to vet. Yeah. Sorry, bud. I would play Monty Cook games if I knew I could choose to play with Eileen or Warrigator. Look at that. It's not even Monty that sells it on Victor. It's funny you say the thing about the author not playing by their own rules. Let me tell you about Top Secret and playing with Merle. Oh, I've played with Merle. Couldn't tell you a single detail about that game. I think it was Gamehole Con 1 or 2. If a game author doesn't play by the rules that they supposedly design and publish, that's a big red flag for me. Depends on how it's designed. On the other hand, Free League lists the GMs running their games. Laramie, subjective judging. Thursday night, I had a player snap at a GM for taking 10 seconds to greet someone they knew for the third time that session. Ran a great game, but that dude would probably roast him. Sneeze says, being a quality GM is so tricky when running for someone else's company. If you do that, I feel like you should do your best to run the presented game. And that's up to the company, right? Shouldn't that be the company? If you're running it under their banner. So, like, for me, BS Landy, I could say, hey, if you're going to represent BS Landy, it's gone beyond me. But I'm saying that if it were something like Go Bag Podcast, run covert actions, put down Go Bag, I would want some kind of maybe, it might be nice, but I don't know if we're having somebody that is like, oh, I went to a con, it had Go Bag listed on it, and the guy was a shitty game master. So if that guy was a shitty game master, then the podcast is probably shitty too. You can add your flourish as a GM, but use the rules. It's their games you're showing off, right? Again says we could use NPS for GMs, net promoter scores, rates customer satisfaction as a known methodology. There you go. Look at that. Harrigan. Better late than never, buddy. Spitting diamonds. I'd love to deal with a deal or finance guy. Dude, I said I'm not interested. I was kind of disappointed, actually, myself. Once you get enough volume, generally truth comes out. Ooh, excuse me. Volume is always the problem. I think a simple rating system would probably be best. Thumbs up tracking with optional comments. Something really simple. I mean, you can get it really complex, but maybe that's not the way to go. Andrew Cooey. You got with one of the best class acts there is. There it is. Cooey, you're right. For sure. See? Dorcas knows him. I effed up his name. Now you guys know. Top notch, man. Top notch. For sure. He gets it. Our pirate board GM at Gamehole slept in, and we got a game with Zach for about an hour while the regular GM got up to speed. It was a fun game. Died 3 times, 4 stars out of 5. Would recommend. Bingo Bambo. Sean, the trick is remembering why you remember their name. Good GM or bad GM. Good. Good. I wouldn't recommend a bad one. Craig Brown. I mentioned Craig before. Craig Brown, awesome. He's local here. I brought him up on the stream before. He's a member of BS Landia now. I don't know if he might. No, he hasn't bounced yet. I don't know if he'll be at BSRCon 5. Be awesome to have him. Runs great Tales of the Loop, right? Things from the Flood is my experiences with him, right? I can't tell about any of the other games, right? But I could speak to 2 games I played with him. He's a great game master. Why is he a great game master, Sean? I don't know. He let me play the game. Didn't feel anything was on rails, even though you kind of have to curtail that on a con game. Knows the material. If you're going to play Tales from the Flood. Yeah. No, Things from the Flood, Tales from the Loop. I'm driving somebody bonkers in there, I'm sure. But yeah, Craig Brown's great. And Victor, you probably played it like with him, I'm guessing. See you, Mike. BS Landy does not vet. They let me right in. Well, there you go. I was listening to the Start Playing Office Hours a month ago, and the guy said metrics-wise, once you have 13 plus reviews and ratings, strangers are more likely to sign up for your games. I could do that tomorrow, I would hope. I could try. How many games run? 2. Ratings? 20. Game the system. Come on, guys. I really need this. Help a brother out. Thing is, I would probably pick people that I've run games for. I remember the name of the good GMs. Bad GMs, I remember a look. Oh, God, you have that guy in the kilt or red hat guy? Cancel your game now. Yes, I am no one. You're someone, Hoos. Come on. Hey, Buttercup. Hey, Marine. Come on. If I were a clown, I'd turn that frown upside down. Last year, I accidentally picked up a game because I recognized the GM name. Oof, that was before I started making the bad GM list. Such a weird world we live in compared to 10 years ago. Yeah, social media. Angela Murray is part of a group called Matinee Adventures that has that kind of positive rep, or so I've heard. Interesting. Aaron, good to see you. There's also something to say about matching players with GMs that have similar preferences and play styles. Absolutely. Absolutely. That Start Playing's got that. Like, hey, this is like they rate themselves. Like, I'm heavy storytelling. I'm light on rules. Oh, I don't want to do that. I want heavy on rules, light on. Like, there's those levers that they have on Start Playing. Table tense, so I know your character's name is at least. Right. Fascinating. Yeah. Thanks, Chris. All right. See ya. See ya, Jim. Say hi to Astrid for me. The whole Matinee Adventures group is on my good GM list. There you go. Table tense. That's how they get you. Next thing you know, you're getting calls from home insurance companies, and it never stops. No, Gifter the Magnificent is not here. How did you get this number? Gifter the Magnificent would like to know if you would like to renew your car warranty. Hobbsy, I knew you were trucking early this morning. Thanks for tuning in, bro. Monty's a fantastic GM, and thank you. Brandon says, I asked Sean K. Reynolds who he thought was a great GM. His answer was Monty. I really need to play a game with him and take notes. There you go. I don't think I've ever had a bad con game, but I think I'm just lucky here. Can't even figure out what the topic is. It's free. We were talking about it started out with like, let me go with this. Like, there's running conventions, there's playing or running games at conventions. And then it went into, we didn't get into that, but it was whatever. How many games you run get a free badge? Like, is that taking advantage of you? And then it went into the caliber of game master and how to measure what a good game master is. And then that became kind of the focal point. Hobbs. Just started at the beginning, buddy. It's on DVR. You can rewind. Craig Brown's awesome. There you go. Craig runs an excellent Alien game as well. There you go. There was a Catalyst GM that was wonderful, but he hadn't been back to Game Home for years. Sean K. Reynolds. Sean's been in the hobby for years. He's like, I think he worked for Wizards. He's worked for Paizo. Now he's at Monty Cook. He's the class of Monty Cook with him and Bruce Cordell. And I will say I've never had a bad game with the BS Landia member. I'm running games at BSRCon 5. Brandon, hope to see you at the table. It is not. I haven't designed a con shirt yet for BSRCon 5. I feel like becoming an instructor catapulted my GM skills. We had a rating system that could be easily adapted, but it was objective from someone who didn't have any stake in your success or failure. Yeah. Well, there you go. I don't know. I think we burned this out to a pulp and we're way over. I guess we can get into some stuff. I didn't expect to talk that long about a topic that wasn't even on the docket, honestly, but it was a good conversation. I appreciate it. I don't know. Who asked me? I'm just going to put it out there. Anybody want to know about the print and crowdfunding and all that good stuff? Because if you don't, I'll bop. I'll bounce. I don't know. I'll wait till anybody chimes in. The demand is not there. I'll let you guys go on with your day. Like I'm holding you here. I'll give you 5 minutes back. There you go. Corporate speak for you. Yeah, crickets. Exactly. Save it for turkey hangover. Yeah, let's see some stuff. Jeff's gonna hang out. Sean, do you whatever you like. You got my ear candy. Okay. All right. Thanks everybody for joining. If you have to bounce, I get it. I'm gonna be streaming next Saturday, right here after the American Thanksgiving holiday, I will be here Thanksgiving morning. So if you are full of turkey, like snoozing on tryptophan, hanging out with family members that you can't stand and you just need to get away, pull me up on your phone, put your ear pods in for an hour, and I'll allow you to escape, or I'll take you away from the things that are driving you maybe a little crazy. All right. Let's get into news. Got about 3 things I wanted to bring up this week on the news junket. Nothing too crazy. Even subjected to maybe not even being news. I don't know. First one, Keith Baker and Monty Cook are, speaking of Monty Cook, they're teaching a class at Dungeon Master U. DMU, bruh. DMU. Is it DMU? DMU. I don't know. I got nothing. Organizers of D&D in a castle are offering lessons to level up your game. We brought this up before. They just didn't have like everything baked. Sounds like things are getting baked. Hey, baked 420. Son, that's a good one, dude. They'll hold their first session January 2nd and 3rd, 2026 at Oglethorpe University in Atlanta. Dungeon Masters could pay between $995 and $2,500 for the all-inclusive experience, depending on the level of access they want to the pros. There you go. Fits right in today's topic. Want to become a better game master? Go to DMU. You can even put that on your little criteria on your signature. Graduate of DMU. Oh, shit. Put that on your gaming resume. Starting package includes 1 of 4 courses. Skill building teaches the basics of running D&D. Campaign building is focused on crafting long-running games. World building emphasizes setting design, and career building is for dungeon masters who want to learn more about the gaming industry. Each includes 8 hours of classwork split over 2 days. There you go. Check it out. Some people, this will drive them absolutely bonkers. This is about the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. DMU, Game Master University. Like, I can't believe it, man. Somebody would even pay for that. Gaming should be free for everyone. Okay, sounds good. Next one. Price hike. Drive-thru RPG price hike December 8th. Deadline to secure current card costs. If you want print-on-demand cards, prices are going up. News at 11. You want to check it out? There you go. But what does that mean, Sean? Read the article. It'll just, if you're going to buy cards, expect them to cost more on drive-thru. If you're a producer of card games with cards, it's going to cost more. Next, Modifius and Goodman Games back Fantasy Grounds free-to-play pivot with massive content drops. Fantasy Grounds, talked about it last week. They're going, download it for free. You can use the VTT for nothing. But if you want the supporting content, you got to pay. It's not wholly uncommon from like many other VTTs. Roll20, Foundry, they all have community. Even Foundry has community like developed game systems, but they're not official. And then the official ones usually cost money. And I'm sure that the ecosystem gets a little sliver of that. But there you go. I mean, they weren't doing it when you had to pay for the thing. So there you go. That's all I had for news. Now people might be, Fantasy Grounds. Interesting. Let's get into, oh my goodness, I just spilled water. At least it's water. Very bad strategic place to put water, by the way. All right. Well, how many streams have I had and I haven't spilled anything? I was kind of due. Let's get into bundles. First one. Matt making mega bundle. I think this has been out there before, but if you missed it, now you can Take advantage of it. It's back. It's good software. There you go. 39 items. City designer, dungeon designer, cosmographer, perspectives, dioramas, yada, 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 da. All the things. Don't know if any of it runs on Mac. Oh, that's your problem, Sean. Mac. That's your problem. I just want to beat people to the punchline sometimes. That's all I want to do. Next one. Dude, I went in on this. This is crazy. So for literally $52, I think. Last call for Lankmar. Joseph Goodman wants all that Lankmar out of inventory. Book bundle, including a printed box set and adventure bundle. So the bundle is $45 minimum or target, right? You can even pay less if you wanted to. I think you got to pay $40 for 26 items. So say you pay the $40 minimum. I went, and then they give you a code to go over to Goodman's Games. You add the box set, the printed box set and these printed products to your cart, use a discount code, and it removes the cost and just charges you shipping. Well, what was the shipping, Sean? $12. So I paid more than 40, but say $52 for all these items and these printed. So if you're a Lankmar person and you want to check it out, this is the time to do it. There you go. And then the last one I have was Salvage Union. This came across the radar like when I think it was either crowdfunded or printed. So it's not something I haven't mentioned on the stream before. It's a recognizable game. It's a rules-light, post-apocalyptic tabletop role-playing game from Leyline Press about ragtag pilots who scoured the ruined wasteland and scrap-built mechs. So there you go. If you're interested in Salvage Union, it's like $20 for some of these items. All right, that's all I had for bundles. Print news. Print news. What's out? Sickest Witch bundle. Sickest Witch Player's Guide. Sickest Witch Blood Property by Severed Books. Probably right off a crowdfunding campaign, I'm gonna guess. Powered by a dark low fantasy system set in a world of folk horror, sorry. Excuse me. System OSR. There are no dragons or fairies. Demonology is prevalent among the poor common folk who populate the towns. Black magic, plague, and famine are routine. PCs are witches made up of oracles, witch abilities that are tested against obstacles. There you go. Check it out. Next one, Operation SANTA by Beyond Cataclysm Games for Troika and Merkberg. It's a softcover supplement by Beyond Cataclysm Games. Did I say that? I said it twice. Next one, basic role-playing game, basic role-playing creatures, and the Leatherette limited edition or special edition. One is 40, one is 90. 200 creatures for monsters including natural animals, dinosaurs, megafauna, fantasy creatures like griffins and Bigfoot, summon creatures, science fiction creatures such as aliens and robots. If you're playing basic role-playing, you gotta have the book, right? Next one, Yoon Suin. The Purple Land, 2nd edition by Noisems Games. It's OSR hardcover setting creation supplement. It's a campaign toolbox for fantasy games, providing rules and guidance needed to run a sandbox campaign and a unique version of Yoon Suin. I don't know if I'm saying that last word correctly. Suin. Next one, Call of Cthulhu, the Sassoon Files. Not to be mistaken for the Vidal Sassoon Files. It's got the Keeper's Kit, 2nd edition, and the Sassoon Files by Sons of the Singularity. It's a hardcover. Noble Knight shows softcover. Interesting. And lastly, let me see. Sassoon Files is a set of nearly a dozen scenarios and campaign resources set in historical 1920s Shanghai, an international city of intrigue, style, and violence. There you go. And then the last one, The Skulking Lair by Spicy Tuna. That's a Spicy Tuna system. Greenhorns is the system, a weird space RPG, softcover supplement, 8-page modular planet creation mission. Boom, bam, bang. Print. Done. Crowdfunding. Whoosh. Crowdfunding. Junk City. Junk City. Mouse Rider Junk City from Exalted Funeral Press. Games Omnivorous and Losing Games. It's on BackerKit for lovers of email. Choose BackerKit. He didn't even notice. I didn't notice. What'd you guys do? What'd you guys say? Don't tell me anything. It's a water stream now. Okay. Whatever. Okay. Next one. Into the Sesson Citadel. Oh, the Joker BackerKit joke landed. Heyo. Into the Sesson Citadel. Kickstarter. Wet Ink Games sourcebook. This campaign reprints Charles Ferguson Avery's any award-winning fantasy sourcebook Into the Sesson Citadel with new editing errata, blah, blah, blah. It is funded. Congratulations. 2 weeks to go as of this recording. Next one, Shadow and Night, a Dungeon Delve adventure duo from Dungeoneers Guild Games. Advanced D&D First Edition. Don't see too many of those, folks. So check it out. It's got the aesthetic, right? I know many lovers of First Edition AD&D, to include our very own Harrigan. Very own Harrigan loves, I think it's his favorite game. So, make sure you invite him if you're going to run AD&D First Edition online. It's funded. It's a 44-page adventure for levels 5 to 7 with 107 keyed locations, monsters, and more. Next one, Aladia, the Pyramid Scheme for 5e. Whoa, Pyramid Scheme. Is that like Amway? Hey. 112 Canadian is the most popular pledge. This is from Bygone Games. It is funded. Want a world of tech and crafting in your Fantasy 5e campaign? Nope. Done. Moving on. I'm sorry. If you do, then this is the Kickstarter for you. Don't ever ask a question like that. You might be afraid what the answer is. Funded in 45 minutes, Alpha Star Magazine. $1 minimum. Funding level, funded in 45 minutes. Context is everything, folks. Alpha Star Magazine sci-fi resources for your D&D games. It's for 5th edition and Level Up Advanced 5th edition. This is a subsidiary. This is not. This is? Oh, it is from EN Publishing. It is from EN Publishing. Got it. An RPG magazine from the company behind our very own EN World. So there you go. Check that out. Ghost in the Shell. I sent this to Mr. Salzwedel. Fred. Hey, man, check this out. You want to put some synth into you want some synth wave into your RPG, or you want some RPG into your synth wave. Most popular pledge, 230 euros. Booyah. 319,000 euros. 3,000% funded. So if you are a fan of Ghost in the Shell, here you go. Anime, espionage, corporate infighting in the public security section. If you love Ghost in the Shell, I don't. Do you love Ghost in the Shell? Not really. Oh, well, never mind. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. There you go. Check it out. Forged in the Dark. If you're a fan of Ghost in the Shell and Forged in the Dark, there you go. Check it out. That is all we have for crowdfunding. Suckers. Bam. BK is going to single-handedly drive me away from crowdfunding. It's crazy. All right. Twilight Sword. Games look much better than I was expecting. Look up Twilight Swords. Twilight Swords? You want me to look it up? Or are you just telling everybody in general? Oh, really? Twilight Sword. It's on backer kit. Twilight Sword. It's not ending that. That's why it's got 26 days. EN World only displays the ones that are in the last week or two of its campaign, Chris. That's why it's not on there. But yeah, 366,000 euros and cranking by Two Little Mice, which I think will be distributed through Free League, right? Yeah. So there you go. So if we didn't go over it, it might not be on the radar. There are some campaigns they just don't put on EN World. But anyways, there you go. I want to thank all of these fine individuals for becoming patrons of the show and supporting me financially. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. And some of you have been doing it for quite a long time. So thank you. And so now I just reminded somebody like, oh shit, I should probably remove that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So yes, I'll be here next Saturday, 8 a.m. Central Time. Be here, be square. Again, holidays. Need to take a break. I'm here. I'll be your Huckleberry. Check out this video over here if you would be so kind. I got to do some videos on this channel. I may or may not have set up a YouTube channel for GoBag, which Paragon probably doesn't even know yet. So I have each one of our episodes in video. I may put them up. I don't know if I'll edit them. I'm still editing the James Bond actual play. We're going to be dropping one that's going to be pretty cool about teasers, running teasers and cold opens, which has been edited. And if you're a patron of the show, well, you're going to get that early. And that'll be dropping in the next day or two to patrons, agents, field agents, operatives, Black Ops directors, and everybody that supports this show will get it early. And it'll be public on Wednesday as of this recording. So it's a good one. I like it. We did a good job. Harrigan did most of the good job, I will say. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you on the next one. Be a positive force in the tabletop RPG hobby. Keep gaming. You know, all that good stuff. Where's my button at? Here it is.